Did you know that we nearly had a live-action Powerpuff Girls show? One that was unnecessarily and nauseatingly mature. But thankfully, it didn't happen, and it was allowed to fade away and become yet another of the legends of fandom. Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. I'm Erod, and I'm the Blockbuster Buster, and welcome to Legends of Fandom, where we talk about the fanboy films and shows that almost happened. Today, our story begins in the late 90s. Girl power was at an all-time high. No, not because of them, because of them. Shows like Xena, Buffy, Alias, and Kim Possible were pushing the female heroine to the forefront. And smack dab in the middle of this awesome trend, the Powerpuff Girls were born. Using their ultra superpowers, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup dedicated their lives to fighting crime and the forces of evil. Created by the legendary Craig McCracken, Powerpuff Girls was a show that was brilliant in its simplicity. 5-year-old adorable little girls who had superpowers on the same level as Superman and Thor. The show was such a massive hit that within months it became Cartoon Network's #1 show, and soon thereafter, their flagship show, and the first original Cartoon Network series to get a theatrically released film. The show had an amazing 6-season run that was only officially surpassed in the late 2010s by Teen Titans Go. Unfortunately, studios and networks are incapable of just letting a valuable IP sit on a shelf. So, the first attempt at rebooting the franchise was in 2016, but it failed to capture the charm, action, and humor of the original, was unanimously rejected by the fans, and cancelled after just 3 seasons. While some feel that the main problem with that iteration is that they failed to bring back the original cast, I think the issue runs a little deeper. I think folks tend to forget that the original show was produced by Greg McCracken, Lauren Faust, and Genndy Tartakovsky, 3 of the greatest animation creators of all time. So if you're gonna try to recreate what they did, you better hire the best of the best. So you'd figure that after the lukewarm reception that the reboot got, that Warner Brothers would have learned their lesson. Nope, as in 2018, news leaked that the CW had greenlit a live-action Powerpuff Girls series. This raised alarms all through fandom because even though most of the CW's DC Comics adaptations are decent, the network also has a notorious reputation for producing, questionable reimaginings of beloved childhood properties. The fan concern then turned into outrage when pictures from the filming of the pilot leaked online, revealing that the show would follow grown-up versions of our beloved heroes. Why? Because by making the girls adults, they remove one of the key elements that makes the franchise unique, and just turned it into another generic superhero adaptation. After the leak, the network became more forthcoming with news and promotional material, revealing that the show would simply be titled Powerpuff, and that our central cast would be played by Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Chloe Bennett as Blossom, the Descendants' Dove Cameron as Bubbles, newcomer Yana Peralt as Buttercup, Scrubs' Donald Faison as Professor Utonium, and Tom Kenny reprising his role as the narrator. The quality cast seemed to appease some of the fanbase, but whatever semblance of confidence was gained from that announcement was completely lost the moment that the script to the pilot was leaked online. And there's no sugarcoating this. It's bad. It's really bad. Someone connected to the production made a claim that the script was fake, but Dove Cameron herself confirmed via social media that this indeed was the script for the pilot that they shot. You're gonna make me do it, aren't you? Okay, here we go. So, what would an adult live-action Powerpuff Girls TV show be like? Let's find out. The script begins like the intro of the animated series. Professor Utonium is attempting to create the perfect little girl by mixing sugar, spice, and everything nice, but accidentally adds an extra ingredient to the concoction, Chemical X, therefore creating the Powerpuff Girls. Now, for the sake of those of you who might not be familiar with the deeper lore, the accidental spill of Chemical X was actually caused by the professor's lab monkey, Jojo, who goes on to become the girls' arch nemesis, Mojo Jojo. In the script, however, he's just a guy, the professor's lab assistant, a regular dude named Mojo. So, the Powerpuff Girls' iconic arch nemesis has been reduced to just a guy. As far as bad starts go, this definitely rates a 10.5 on the suckometer.
This is preposterous. I am not a man. I am not a dude. I am not a homo sapien. I am the pinnacle of everything that is evil. I am Mojo.
So the girls are born, and they quickly start fighting crime and the forces of evil for the professor's profit. That's right, the lovable and socially awkward Professor Utonium has been changed into a show dad. You know, those horrible people that exploit their children for fame and fortune, that should be in jail for child abuse. The script takes the liberty of giving Professor Utonium the first name, Drake. And because the character in the script doesn't behave anything like the professor, that is how I'm going to refer to him. So Drake only has the girls fight crime so he can cash in on their image by licensing all manner of products based on them, including the animated series. Yes, mercifully, it is established that this show is not a continuation of the original cartoon. However, the claim that the cartoon is based on this horrible thing as opposed to the other way around is both pretentious and gross. We cut to Dr. Mojo, who has grown resentful of the Powerpuff Girls' fame, as he claims that Chemical X was his invention, and he created it specifically to give himself powers, as the show implies that Mojo and Drake purposely created superpowered little girls, as opposed to the canonical origin where the professor just wanted to be a dad, but accidentally created superheroes instead. Also, Dr. Mojo has a son named Jojo, who is a huge fan of the Powerpuff Girls, especially Blossom. That's gonna be important later. So cut to 10 years later, the girls are teenagers now. And fanboys and fangirls, this is the exact moment in the script where it goes from bad to, oh my god, what the hell were they thinking? Keeping in mind that the girls are 15 now, Blossom is jaded and sick of fighting crime. Bubbles is an alcoholic who is currently nursing a hangover. And Buttercup is a sex-addicted lesbian who is incapable of being faithful to her girlfriend. Where was I? The girls get an emergency call via the hotline to save the city from a mechanical swamp monster. The girls jump into action, but not before whining and arguing for about 2 pages. There is so much whining and arguing in this script. So much! So they finally make it to the scene of the attack, and Blossom is pretty much doing all the work, as Bubbles is too hungover to help, and Buttercup is busy arguing with Powerpuff Girls protesters. Why are there protesters? Because Mojo has propagated the narrative that most of the threats that the girls face are actually created by Drake. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but so far the protesters are the only characters in the script that I like. Also, while we're on the subject of Mojo, he is the one piloting the swamp monster, alongside his pet monkey, who is there for reasons. This escalates, and eventually the situation is too much for Blossom to handle alone. A large piece of debris flies in the wrong direction and crushes Mojo inside the robot, presumably killing him. Everyone is stunned by the incident, and Blossom, understandably, is left traumatized. And that was just the cold opening before the title. The real pain is about to begin. We cut to 10 more years later. The girls are now 25, and all 3 of them have moved away from Townsville. Buttercup is a firefighter in Portland, Oregon. Bubbles is a washed-up former child star in Hollywood, and Blossom works for a biotech firm in Boston. All 3 girls receive messages that they need to travel to Townsville and meet with a lawyer so they can collect their trust funds, which were amassed throughout the years that their likenesses were used by several corporations. The idea of going back to Townsville causes Blossom to have a panic attack, which is represented in the script by her having hallucinations of seeing her younger self. Strangely, Blossom's hallucination of herself is way more level-headed and confident than her. It always gives her good advice. Like here, she just advises her to just bite the bullet and go see her family. Worst case scenario, she'll at least get some closure. Meanwhile, Jojo, Mojo's son, is now the mayor of Townsville, and is stressed over the chances of being re-elected. A stress that is exacerbated when he finds out that the Powerpuff Girls are returning. Cut to the Townsville airport. The girls reunite, but no time for an intimate family reunion, as Bubbles has brought a cameraman with her as she plans to produce a documentary about their reunion called Bubbles is Back. And then Buttercup says, not to be confused with your other movie, Bubbles on Her Back. Now, for those of you who are wondering, is Bubbles a flighty, self-centered, oblivious Paris Hilton type throughout the entire script? The answer is yes! Oh my god, yes. Upon arriving at the house, they find it surrounded by press, protesters, and a few fans, including a young girl named Henrietta, who claims that Blossom is her favorite. Buttercup spots a furry caterpillar on her shoulder and flicks it into the bushes. But it turns out that the caterpillar was the girl's pet. So she starts crying and things get really awkward. And right when you think they couldn't possibly get any more awkward, they go inside and reunite with Drake. And they have a very unpleasant exchange, where Drake is inappropriately optimistic, Blossom is distant, Buttercup is aloof, and Bubbles is oblivious, self-centered, and I can't emphasize this enough, annoying! Their bad dad informs them that their meeting with the lawyer is still 24 hours away, and that in the meantime, they should investigate some power surges that he has detected with the instruments in his lab. So far, the bad aspects of the script have been inconsistencies with the source material, but this scene is legitimately bad no matter the context. The professor has no proof that anything is wrong. His reasoning for the investigation is insanely vague. The girls have no motivation to agree to this investigation, and yet they do! Their investigation leads them to a bar called the Volcano, ran by the Rowdy Rough Boys. And before you ask, they are absolutely nothing like in the cartoon. They don't even have powers, they're just 3 guys. Bubbles ends up making out with Butch. Buttercup spends most of her time flirting with a girl at the bar, while Blossom attempts to get some drinks, when suddenly a middle-aged man with yellow eyes tries to hit on her. Buttercup is not digging this guy's vibe, so she runs interference in her sister's behalf and curtails the man's efforts in the most diplomatic way that she knows, by throwing him across the room. Buttercup's violent outburst gets them all thrown out of the bar. As they leave, it is revealed that Drake was right about the power surge, but it was actually coming from the apartment above the bar, where Henrietta lives and has been creating robotic caterpillars with mind control capabilities. Furthermore, the yellow-eyed creep that made a pass at Blossom and got tossed by Buttercup was under said mind control and acting under Henrietta's command. And if that twist isn't twisty enough for you, then guess what? Henrietta is actually under Mayor Jojo's employ, who wants her to mind control the girls into doing something horrible, like throwing a bus full of children into the river. So Henrietta creates color-coordinated caterpillars for all 3 of the girls. The next day, Blossom needs somebody to talk to. She goes to Buttercup first and catches her banging some random woman in their childhood bedroom. I hate this script so much. Instead, Blossom goes to see the only sensible person that she knows, Miss Bellum, who in the pilot was played by Robin Lively from Karate Kid and Teen Witch. While that's happening, they do a montage of Henrietta's caterpillars trying to crawl into each of the girls' ears, only to be inadvertently squished or swatted away by the girls. They then finally have their meeting with the lawyer, where they discover that there is no trust fund. Drake lost it after he tried to double it by investing it in real estate, cronuts, and fidget spinners. I know he's not real, but I just really need to punch this guy. The girls, especially Bubbles, are outraged and storm out, in the process of which one of the caterpillars manages to climb in Drake's ear and take him over. So Mayor Jojo changes his plan. Instead of having the girls create random destruction, he's gonna have Henrietta take over the minds of a few hundred Townsville citizens and have them riot. Then, he's gonna mind control Drake into confessing to the mind control. Now, where are the girls while all of this is happening? Blossom spent the night sulking in her tent. Sulking in her tent? Like Achilles sulking in it? Read a book. Buttercup spent the night with a whole other woman, or maybe it's the same one. I really don't want to go back and reread this part. And Bubbles spent the night hungover in jail. Ugh. They reconvene at the house, where Buttercup's lady friend gets taken over by one of the caterpillars, but the girls subdue her easily. During the scuffle, Mystery Lady hits her head on a nightstand, which makes the caterpillar fall out of her ear. And then, thanks to the power of extreme plot convenience, all three girls get messages on their phones alerting them of the people rioting on the streets of Townsville. So finally do our heroes jump into action, except for Blossom, who has a panic attack and hides in an alley. Bubbles and Buttercup use a telephone pole to electrocute all the people rioting, and short out all the caterpillars in their ears. And how exactly did they avoid killing all these people? No clue. Blossom has another chat with her inner child, who convinces her to be a hero on her own terms. Meanwhile, Henrietta goes to Plan C and makes Drake jump off of a building. Bubbles and Buttercup have their hands full with the telephone pole, so they can't make it in time. So predictably, Blossom flies in for the save. Buttercup responds to her sister's act of heroism by shouting, "Yeah, that's my bitch." After saving Drake, Blossom punches him in the face, making the caterpillar fall out of his ear and freeing him from the mind control, all the while reaching a little bit of catharsis. Henrietta approaches them, amassing all of her caterpillars for some kind of a super attack, but is electrocuted by Buttercup, and that's the end of that. Now could we please end this? Back home, the girls seem to be in a good emotional place with Drake, who then retreats into his lab, where it is revealed that he knows how to reactivate the caterpillars, and is keeping one in a secret room along with other dangerous items from the girls' past adventures. After that, Mayor Jojo visits the house and has an awkward conversation with Blossom, in which he confesses that he wishes that she would stay in Townsville, and then gives her an action figure of herself as a gift. Inside the house, the girls muse about whether or not they should stay in Townsville or not. No definitive decision is made. They just start singing Breakaway by Kelly Clarkson because it's a catchy song. And then we finally cut to the obligatory CW epilogue, where it is revealed that the action figure that JoJo gave Blossom has a hidden camera inside of it. And back in Mojo's observatory, JoJo is watching the footage of the girls singing along with his pet monkey. He then begins talking to himself, because that's what bad guys do, and says, "I'll find another way to win re-election. We took them down once, we can do it again. Right, Dad?" To which the pet monkey responds by saying, "Yes, Dr. Mojo didn't die. Instead, he turned into a monkey." What? Look, what bothers me is not that the script is bad or mean-spirited or vulgar. It's that somebody read this and thought, this is fine. Let's shoot this. And look, I could sit here for hours picking this thing apart and tell you why it doesn't work, but it all truly comes down to one thing. They took everything that was unique about Powerpuff Girls and turned it into yet another adult-oriented comic book-based dark comedy. And we already have Kick-Ass, and Deadpool, and The Boys, and Doom Patrol, and Invincible, and The Umbrella Academy. It's just beyond idiotic to take something that is so original and transform it into something that we already have. And thus we get to the question that I've been looking forward to the most in this video. Why didn't this happen? Well, like I said, things started to fall apart when the script leaked. Soon thereafter, it was announced that they were reshooting the entire pilot, which led many to speculate that the network wasn't happy with it, and the show was in serious trouble. Then everything went quiet for 2 full years. There was no word about the new pilot being shot, the network putting in an episode order, or when exactly this show was due to premiere. And then after 2 years of silence, a bit of news broke that made everything unravel. Chloe Bennett dropped out of the project to work on FX's Dave, and without her, the show lost a little bit of credibility that it still had. And a few months later, thankfully, it was cancelled. Now, while there might be some who are curious to see the pilot and are hoping that it will be leaked online, I just want to state as clearly as possible that I am not one of those people, and I look forward to living a long, healthy life without ever having seen the CW's Powerpuff. But what do you think? Are you relieved that this show didn't happen, or are you still curious to see where this show could have gone? Let me know in the comment section below, as we have once again reached the end of this video. So, do you know of any fanboy films or shows that almost happened? Let me know at erod@inbox.com. And who knows, your suggestion might end up being the topic of the next Legends of Fandom. Until then, I'm Erod, and I'm the Blockbuster Buster.